The easiest way I found to be able to work with subtracting negative numbers is actually not to do subtracting at all. But there is a way that we can think about this in terms of a financial perspective I've found to be helpful for many students. The way I like to a lot of times look at this is think about a negative as like borrowing money, right? So in this case, let's say -3, that means money I owe. So I owe you $3, and then I want to borrow $2 more. So we think about this, if we're like, all right, I owe you $3, but now I want to borrow $2 more. Now, how much money do I have? Well, now, technically, I'm going to have -$5, right? Because I owe you $3, and then I'm borrowing $2 more. So now it's going to give me a total of owing you $5, or a -5. A lot of times, though, still students thinking about that can take a little bit of time. So what I always like to advise students, especially when you need to do like some mental math, I always like to just, rather than think about terms and subtraction where we can make some mistakes, I always like to think of things as addition. Remember, you can always change a subtraction problem to an addition problem. Just go ahead and change it to adding a negative. So now if we think about this as like you owe me $3, combine that with owing me $2, you can see, yeah, all right, you're going to owe me -$5. Now, the financial kind of rule gets a little bit more confusing when you start doing like -3 minus a -2, right? You borrow $3, now you're going to borrow another $2 more that you already, it's like, it just kind of gets weird, right? Like thinking about this is like a real life scenario. So again, I always like to think about this as adding. How can I create this? How can I make this with adding? Well, if you think about this, if you think about negatives as far as like the opposite direction, right? So if you think about a number line, okay? Now, we could think about this as positive and negative direction, but you could also think about this as like the regular direction, and a negative is just going to be the opposite direction. So if I have a -3, right, and I'm going to go opposite direction of opposite direction, that's what we call a double negative, right? Because if you go opposite, opposite, well, those are going to undo each other. And that's why a lot of times we say like minus a negative just actually turns our problem into an addition problem. So now I can think about this as a -3 plus 2. So if I think about this in terms of my financial explanation, I owe you $3, but I have $2 in my pocket. So if I owe you $3, but I have $2 in my pocket, if I combine those, which is addition, I'm now just going to owe you a -$1.